Hey, welcome to Satisfy Personal Finance. Today I'm going to talk about something that's quite personal and it also affects my finances. So, hey, it's personal finance and it's about my experience living in Singapore as someone who doesn't have a graduate degree. So, some background about my educational qualification. I actually did quite well in PSLE and O levels. But at my A levels, I actually did very, very poorly. Now, don't worry, this is not one of those, oh, I scored very badly, but look at how successful I am right now. I just want to share my experiences about the pros and cons of not going through university. And if you are in a position where you are choosing whether or not to go into a university and get your degree, maybe this will help. And yeah, and maybe I also like to seek some advice from people because I'm actually thinking of getting my degree as someone in my mid-30s. So yeah, let me know in the comments below after you watch this video. After my O-levels at the grand age of 17, I realized that I was burnt out from studying and I kind of felt quite jaded and thought that my academics at that time did not really have any relevance to what I would do in future. So I thought, okay, I will not study and I'll just let whatever happens happen. And my poor grades happened. I got triple D at A levels. And predictably, all the local unis did not accept me. I applied for things like law and business because I wanted to go into those pursuits. But obviously, with a poor grade of triple D, I was not going to go anywhere. In fact, I remember the only faculty that I could enter at that time was industrial design, and I had no experience nor portfolio which they required. And so I just didn't go into a local uni. So at that time, my choices was to either go overseas to study or to go to a private uni. And for me, I felt like a private uni degree was something that was discriminated against in Singapore. So I thought, okay, maybe I want to go overseas. But at the same time, overseas uni is very, very expensive. You have to pay all the tuition fees, you have to pay all the rental, the accommodation costs. Yeah, and living away from Singapore for 3 to 4 years at that time, I felt was a bit unattractive. I did not want to be away for such a long period of time and cost a lot of money to my family, and therefore I decided, okay, I will just start working first and see how it goes. And the rest is kind of history. If you watch my older videos, you'll know that I started off as an insurance agent and then I went to an IFA. And then finally, I became a tutor and set up my own tuition business. And here I am still doing tuition. And now I have my side hustle, which is my online website, as well as this YouTube channel. So I want to talk about my experience being someone without a degree in Singapore. And I've come up with a pros and cons list. And I'll start with the cons because I think there are a lot more cons to get through. So I'll start with that. And the first con is that the job market is obviously very inclined towards those with degrees. And if you don't have a degree, you either won't even get a step into the interview room or you'll get a very, very low pay compared to people with degree. Given how having a degree is the norm in Singapore, having no degree actually means that your job choices are very limited, or at least that's what I encountered, because every single job listing that I was interested in all said that you need a bachelor degree and above. And I only had an A-level cert, all right, not even a diploma. So I actually didn't bother applying. So maybe that's on me, okay? Maybe if I try applying, I might get into an interview and I can impress them with my amazing oratory skills.
Nobody can do it like me. Nobody.
Yeah, so maybe I should have tried. Okay, but I think the fact is that the job market is very, very biased against people without degrees, and you need a degree to work in a lot of fields. So when I was fresh out of NS as someone without a degree and no university to go to, this created a lot of anxiety in me, and I really just wondered what I can do for a living, what am I going to do now for a job, how do I earn money, how do I even afford things like my own place and retirement. So those are things that really weighed heavily on my mind. And at that time, I really had no answer. So I went to look for a part-time job, and then one thing led to another. I became self-employed. And just along the past 10 to 12 years or so, have been self-employed my entire adult life, and I think I'm getting by. But the anxiety is always there. Sometimes I feel like, I wonder what's my economic value if I were to go and interview for a job. Will anybody even hire me now as a mid-30 something without a degree and without corporate work experience? So I think the anxiety is still around, even though I'm quite okay where I am. Sometimes I feel like, what if my business fails? Okay, what if I want to go back to work? Or, okay, not go back, but what if I want to go and be an employee? I feel very envious of my friends who can just switch their jobs when they're tired at their workplace. because they're very mobile, they have a degree, they can just go for interviews and then get hired elsewhere. Whereas for me, I feel like if I'm not doing what I'm doing now, what else can I do? I really can't think of anything I can be doing. So I think the anxiety remains, and it has actually made me feel like I should go and get a degree right now. Really on two fence about it. So if you're a young person and you are in a similar predicament, meaning you can't get to the uni course you want and you don't really have a degree, just be prepared that the job market in Singapore obviously requires a lot of paper qualification. So you might not have much luck being an employee. But perhaps this is just me not really trying to get formally employed, because I've heard of stories where people get entry level jobs and they start off with low pay, but they soon work their way up. Even without a degree, they are now earning either on par or maybe even more than their peers with degrees. So perhaps this job thing is on me rather than the job market itself. But I think you cannot deny that a lot of jobs, really, to get through the door, you at least have to have a degree first. Another con of not going to university, I feel, is that I lack a social network of university friends. People who go to university, they tend to have their university friends. You can tap your network of university friends for business reasons or even social ones, right? Not everything has to be about business. So I lack that kind of network, and my only school friends that I keep in contact with are a few from my JC days, and that's about it. So I don't have a network of university friends, and that's something I feel is a tangible benefit of going to university, because you're 3 to 4 years there. You tend to network, you tend to make a lot of friends, and these friends, be it for business or social reasons, are a network of friends you can count on. And I think going to university is a rite of passage that most people in Singapore have gone through, most young people anyway. And therefore, when they talk about things like GPA, second upper, all this, I really cannot relate. When they talk about their uni days, I have nothing to contribute. It's a bit like not serving NS and then a bunch of guys talk about NS, right? You will feel excluded, and then you lack that kind of ability to socialize when that topic is brought up. So that's another thing I feel hinders my networking even now. Okay, of course, not a very major point, but it's yet another reminder that I'm not a university graduate. Another thing I feel as a non-graduate, when most of my peers are, is that there's this sense of discrimination. Of course, it's not very overt. It's not like, oh, you have no degree or you must be very dumb. But it's more like they will ask in social settings, oh, so what do you do in uni? And then I say, okay, I've not gone to uni. And then the conversation dies there. And I have met parents who wanted only graduates to teach them, which I felt was kind of discriminatory, right? Because if your kid is 14, 15 years old and I'm supposed to teach him O-level mathematics, am I not well equipped to teach it based on my O-level grades? I think I'm more than in a position to do so. And I've made it my career for now 7 over years. I would think that getting A's for every subject that I teach is more than enough to teach your kid at an O-level standard, okay? But there were parents who insisted that they only wanted graduates to teach. Now, as with many things in life, there are always pros and cons. So now that I've talked about the cons, I'll talk about the pros. And I think one of the major pros is that I have saved about 3 to 4 years of my life. So instead of studying, I went to the real world and I went to work and gain experience. Now, even though I spent 4 years earning practically nothing and an IFA, I felt that those were invaluable experiences that helped me to do things like my website and this YouTube channel. So that 4 years was really pure experience gaining mode, right? So instead of going to university, a school to learn, I was learning in the school of real life. Okay, a bit cringy, but that's how I feel like I spend my time. And when I see more and more graduates joining my industry, such as insurance or tuition, I feel like, hey, they actually wasted 4 years of their time and then they come into the exact same industry that I am in, and I have 4 years head start of them. So I feel like if you know what you're going to do, or if you want to be self-employed, actually you can just skip the whole 3 to 4 years of university education and then just work and earn money. And on top of saying that 3 to 4 years, you also save on all the tuition fees. And of course, I think as a Singaporean, you have to pay a subsidized rate, but it's still quite substantial it comes into the tens of thousands of dollars over the few years. If you go for private uni, it's even more expensive, and if you go for overseas uni, it will be even more costly. So I think by skipping my university education, I actually save a great deal of money. And of course, I can spend those years working. And even though I didn't earn a lot at IFA, I still earn some money versus people who don't really earn money when they're studying and then they have to pay for all the tuition fees. And on a less tangible note, I feel like not going to uni actually made me take the path less traveled, and that has made all the difference, according to the poem anyway. But I do feel there's some truth in taking the path less traveled, and that has made me more resourceful, right? Because instead of getting a degree and then applying for a job like every other person in Singapore, right, I was thrown into the world and I have to find ways to survive. So I had to be resourceful and find alternate forms of employment, or other ways for me to earn money despite my lack of degree. And based on that, I've been self-employed 12 over years. I feel like I am very comfortable being self-employed, and I might not have discovered this life if I had taken a degree and then gone to a 9 to 5 job and work as an employee. I might be less happy then, who knows, right? I feel like I'm quite comfortable where I am right now, so that has made all the difference. And that might not have happened if I went to university as most people do. So having listed all the pros and cons, I now have to talk about my dilemma, which is I've always had the thought of going to study and get a degree. I don't know why, because I've been doing quite well for myself over the past few years or so, despite my lack of a degree. And I don't know whether I should waste that time and money to pursue something that might not have economic value. And I don't know why I keep having that thought. I wonder if it's just me trying to fulfill a rite of passage that I didn't experience when I was younger. Of course, there are more practical side of things, like I might want to take up something related to law, which is useful when you do business. Having legal knowledge is always very helpful when you're doing your own venture. Or perhaps to prepare for mid-career switch, because I think tuition is something that you can't really do for long, or at least for myself, I really feel the disconnect with my kids. Sometimes I feel like there's a growing generation gap, and I can't possibly keep teaching until I'm 40 or 50 plus, can I? Well, I say that and then I realize my mom is a tutor in her 60s, and there are obviously a lot of teachers who teach until they are very old. So I just feel like maybe having a backup plan or having another uh, avenue of work might be helpful in the long run. Right, I really don't know. Maybe I'm just trapped in the very traditional Singaporean mindset where you must have a degree to survive in Singapore, even though I managed to live and get by without one so far. Another thought I had was, instead of getting a degree, which is kind of late, I'm already in my mid-30s, I might as well learn other practical skills like coding. So I can go to maybe a polytechnic to get a diploma on app development. That would be more useful than going for a law degree at my age, I feel. Because what are the chances of me doing well in a legal profession when I'm almost 40? And yeah, so usually I'm the one giving advice on my YouTube channel, but now I'm actually asking your opinion on what I should do. Should I just stick to whatever I'm doing and get better at it? Or should I spend the time and effort to get a degree so that I have more options? Yeah, let me know in the comments below. I would really appreciate it. On the other hand, if you're a young person and like me, for whatever reason, can't get into a university of your choice, and you're wondering whether or not you can survive without a degree in Singapore, I would say yes, but bearing in mind the pros and cons that I've listed. There are definitely some pros of not getting a degree, but you need to know how to make a living, right? You might have to explore options like self-employment or working your way up in an SME. These are all things that are less certain if you don't have a degree. Be realistic, okay? Really decide on whether or not you can survive without a degree. You can go and try first, but maybe don't be like me and wait almost 15 years before thinking whether or not to study again, right? If you want, get a degree early and then get it out of the way, or just decide don't want to have a degree, go and do something that you're passionate and good at. Personally, I feel like degrees are important for things that require professional knowledge, such as if you want to be a doctor, obviously you need a medicine degree. If you want to be a lawyer, you need a law degree. Okay, but I think for many professions where you're just an executive, right, I really wonder what's the value of having a degree other than to satisfy the employer's requirements, right? Does having a degree make me a better worker, or does having no degree make me a lousier person when it comes to value adding to the company? Unfortunately, I don't think I will know because my lack of degree has led me on this road of self-employment, and I have just never been given the chance to work in a corporate setting. So I hope my experience was useful or at least entertaining and interesting, right? Subscribe to my Telegram for more content and great deals, and I'll see you next video. So in my video where I talk about recovering from COVID and I said I was 95% well, it turns out that I actually wasn't 95%. I think I'm more like 80 to 85% well because I'm still suffering from some post-COVID syndromes like fatigue, and I had some brain fog, I feel, for about a week or so after my recovery. And I still get like stomach trouble, which I can only attribute to COVID again. Hopefully that will pass soon. If you notice that my updates are less regular these days, it's because I really have a very low energy level compared to last time. My energy level was already very low last time and now it's even lower. Okay, I feel like it's creeping back up, but knock on wood, I hope I will get through this whole COVID ordeal soon and I can update more frequently.